हरे कृष्ण। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So welcome back to the seventh day of the part 3 of this course, Self Evaluation Tools on the Path of Bhakti. So, yesterday we completed the fourth chapter or the fourth shower of nectar of this book, Madhurya Kadambini, which spoke about Nishta. I will do a very quick recap of this theme before we move on to the next stage of our devotional journey, which is Ruchi. So, what did we see in Nishta yesterday? So we first try to understand that why there is the stage of anartha nivritti in between anishtita bhajana kriya and nishtita bhajana kriya. Because one would naturally think that after anishtita bhajana kriya, nishtita bhajana kriya should start. Yes, it does start, but in the interim period, now you can't say interim period, but while one is progressing on the level, on the platform of anishtita bhajana kriya, parallelly anartha nivritti is happening. That is how one is able to move through those 6 stages of Anishtita Bhajana Kriya and gradually come to the stage where he can knock the doors of Nishta. So from Utsahamayi to Ghanatarala to Vyuda Vikalpa to Tarang to Vishaya Sangara to Niyamakshama to Tarangarangini. It's a gradual progress, and during that time gradually Anartha Nivritti is happening. So that Anartha Nivritti is separated and it is discussed in the in between Anishtita Bhajana Kriya and Nishtita Bhajana Kriya, and we had an elaborate discussion on that. And this is also supported by Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. We saw the examples of Shrinmatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidnoti suritsatam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam Bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So these two verses indicate how first comes Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti, then Nishta. And this is also seen, we saw from the verse, Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dadavrata. So this verse also indicates Anishtita Bhajana Kriya leading to Anartha Nivritti, leading to Nishta. Then we saw the symptoms of Nishta is the absence of the 5 obstacles to achieving steady practice of devotional service. And we saw that these are 5 in number: Laya, Vikshepa, Apratipatti, Kashaya, and Rasaswada. Sleep, distraction, indifference to spiritual subject matters, sometimes, occasional, and troubled by past bad habits, and a taste for material enjoyment. So these 5 obstacles that we saw, when present, indicates that the person is not yet ready for uh, nishta or steady devotional practice. And actually this is because of the presence of the mode of passion and ignorance. Mode of passion and ignorance are symptomatized by these 5 factors, which are briefly described in Bhagavatam in this verse. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayasche cheteter anaviddam sthitam sattve prasidati. So this, the stage of Nishta is indicated by the absence of the influence of Rajogun and Tamogun and by a predominance of Sattvagun. So which is characterized by the absence of these 5 obstacles, which are uh, different manifestations of kama lobhadayasche, like that. So therefore, by the gradual practice of bhakti, gradually the rajogun and tamogun get uh, pacified completely, they get subdued completely, and sattvagun becomes very prominent. And that prominence of sattvagun is characterized by absence of these uh, five essential obstacles. So one no longer feels sleepy, one no longer during practice of devotional service, one no longer feels troubled by the past bad habits, one is no longer distracted by mundane topics, one is no longer troubled by occasional lack of taste. There is at least some taste all the time, and one is no longer troubled by the opportunity for sense gratification does not distract such a person from steady practice of devotional service. So this we discussed, and then the next theme that we discussed is that how we can reach this stage of Nishtha only if we avoid, if we can successfully overcome the 10 offenses. So in this theme we discussed from the Shikshashtakam explanations by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sanmodana Bhashyam, and by the Shikshashtakam commentary by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also. We had a brief discussion on this, how the second verse of Shikshashtakam actually indicates the stage of Anartha Nivritti, and Anartha, and it also indicates Anarthas being the cause of lack of taste in chanting the holy name. And then how to chant offenselessly. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, identify the offenses and identify the root of the offenses, identify how that root manifests in our day-to-day dealings and root it out. So we have to, at least in the initial stages, we have to be very conscientious of the offenses that we may commit, and gradually try to find out the root cause of that offensive mentality, and try to root out that mentality itself. So in this way, gradually we will become free of offenses. And eventually, of course, we discussed about these offenses in the Anartha Nivritti section also. But then when one is not conscious of carefully avoiding the 10 offenses, then he cannot reach the stage of Namabhas. And if he does not practice that at the stage of Namabhas, he cannot reach the stage of Shuddhanam. And at the stage of Shuddhanam only, one reaches the stage of Nishtha. So therefore it is a practice. And if you see, Krishna completely demystifies spiritual perfection in Bhagavad Gita and all the other literatures. Let's take few examples from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna demystifies this whole concept of spiritual perfection. Krishna, for example, let's take the example of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Arjuna objects that Chanchalam hi manak Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. He says, my dear Arjun, my dear Krishna, you have, in this path of Ashtanga Yoga, you have requested that I control the mind. But I think this controlling the mind is extremely difficult. I cannot control it because I can even control the raging wind. But for me to control the mind is very difficult. So in response to this, Krishna says, I agree with you, I empathize with what you are saying, but you are feeling this way because you have not sufficiently practiced to control your mind. And you have not sufficiently tried to refrain yourself from those impetus or stimulus which can agitate your mind. So if you practice these two things, then you can control the mind. So Krishna says, Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. It is possible, Arjuna, by proper practice and detachment. Detach yourself from the sense objects and practice bringing your mind and fixing it in the Supreme Lord. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamasstiram tatastato niyammetad atmanyeva vasham nayat. Whenever the mind goes, pull it back, fix it in Krishna. Then when the mind goes, pull it back, fix it in Krishna. So Krishna says, If something does not come naturally to you, practice it. By practice you can perfect. There is nothing mystical about it as such. If you cannot spontaneously love Krishna, practice loving Krishna. In the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, again Krishna orders Arjuna that tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha mayi arpita manobuddhir mame vaishyasi asamshayah. He says, Arjuna, therefore at all times try to fix your mind in me. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. At all times think of me and fight. Arjuna may say, oh, look, I can either think of you, sit in a solitary place and think of you, or I can fight. How can I simultaneously think of you and fight? That seems very difficult to do. It does not come naturally to me. So Krishna says, no problem. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partana chintayan. If you want anuchintayan, constant remembrance of me, O Arjuna, abhyasa yoga, practice. Follow the yoga of practicing it. Practice it. Practice makes a man perfect. This is true in spiritual life also. Like that, so many places, also in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, Mai eva mana adatsva, mai buddhim niveshaya, nivashishyasi mai eva ata urdvam na samshayah. O Arjuna, fix your mind spontaneously on me and fix your intelligence spontaneously on me. And by this you can attain me. In this way you can remain within me all the time. There is no doubt about it. But someone may say, oh, to spontaneously think of Krishna, as Mother Kunti says, Gange Vogam Vudanvati. As Ganges naturally flows towards the ocean, evading and crossing over and destroying all the obstacles that may come on its path. The same way the mind should spontaneously flow towards the lotus feet of Krishna. But the reality is, for most people it may not be spontaneously happening. Mind may spontaneously flow towards sense objects only. So Krishna says, okay, you can't do it. I'll give you the next option. Atachittam samadhatum na shaknosi maistiram abhyasa yogena tato mamittaptum dhananjaya. Just practice. If you cannot fix your mind on Krishna, practice fixing your mind on Krishna. So therefore, throughout Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, Krishna's direction is very clear. Something you cannot do spontaneously, practice it. So that is why this stage of Nishtha also one can reach by constantly practicing to avoid offenses. So by that practice, constant practice, that stage of constant practice is called as Namabhas. And then when it becomes spontaneous, it is called as Shuddhanam. So therefore, that the problem of offenses, Durdaivam idrisham ihajani nanuragaha, is explicitly mentioned in the second verse. And what is implied in that verse is, therefore constantly try to avoid the offenses. And what will be the result of avoiding the offenses? In the next verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. If you carefully if you practice avoiding the offenses and if you attain perfection, spontaneously avoiding offenses while you engage in your spiritual activities, then you will develop the good qualities of humility, tolerance, giving respect to others and not expecting respect in return. All these qualities will be developed, and as a result of this sattva and the destruction of rajas and tamas, you will no longer feel the obstacles which had which had affected your spontaneous flow of devotional service. So, you will be free from laya, vikshepa, apratipatti, kashaya and rasaswada because of the destruction of rajogun and tamogun. And in this way, kirtaniya sadahari, you can constantly chant the holy name like that. So, in this way we discussed, and then we discussed the two types of nishta, Sakshat Bhaktir Vartini and Bhakti Anukula Vastur Vartini. So Sakshat Bhaktir Vartini we saw was where there is steadiness in the practice of in the activities of devotional service. He is very steady in waking up, chanting his rounds and all that. And then Bhakti Anukula Vastur Vartini means there is steadiness in the qualities of humility, tolerance, etc. Then we saw that of the two types of nishta, which is more reliable? What is a more reliable indicator of nishta? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the first type, because he says he gives two contrasting possibilities. You may have one person whose practice, who is extremely gentleman, who is humble, tolerant and everything, but just that his practice of devotional service is little sine wave, up and down like that, not very steady. On the other hand, you have another devotee whose practice of devotional service may be steady, but he is rude, arrogant, very insensitive, like that. So he says, which is a more reliable symptom of nishta? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, second one. Why? Because two people may not take up to the process of bhakti with the same amount of anarthas. A very sattvic person may also take up to bhakti, and a rajasic person also may take up to bhakti, and a tamasic person may also take up to bhakti. So therefore, because these people do not take up to bhakti with the same kind of conditioning baggage, one with less conditioning baggage may show good qualities more quickly. So in the first case, despite not having steadiness in practice of devotional activities, when we saw that the person is showing good qualities, those good qualities are not a product of his practice of bhakti. In all likelihood, they are a product of his past life which was in mode of goodness. That was the conclusion that we had. So therefore, in order to evaluate how much the person has progressed on the path of nishta, the reliable parameter, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, is intensity of effort and ease of performance. That is intense effort and ease of performance. This indicates nishta. When there is laxity of effort and very difficulty in performing the devotional activities, this indicates the stage of anishtita bhajana kriya, where the anarthas are causing a significant obstacle in his progress. Then the last theme that we discussed was cultivation of good qualities is possible by cultivation of bhakti. This is the constant theme of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Wherever a theme of good qualities are mentioned, the conclusion of the acharyas is that yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunes tatra samasate sura. By practice of bhakti, all good qualities will manifest by the gradual destruction of rajogun and tamogun. This is the more sustainable approach to developing good qualities. This is the realistic approach to developing good qualities as firmly rooted virtues within our heart. So as devotees, our means of transcending at least the rajogun and tamogun is only by practice of bhakti. And unless we root out rajogun and tamogun, we can never develop good qualities and never overcome the unfavorable qualities. Then the last theme that we discussed was, so what should be the devotee's approach? Should they be just practicing Shravanam Kirtanam and be completely callous when it comes to dealing with others, just hoping that my practice of bhakti over a period of time will help me develop all good qualities? No. We have to, the nature of bhakti is characterized by anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam. Whatever is favorable, we accept. Whatever is unfavorable for bhakti, we reject. And the most unfavorable thing for bhakti is disrespect and offensive attitude. In order to, and which completely consumes all the devotional credits that we have earned through painstaking performance of devotional service. So we saw yesterday that we have to very carefully, practice respect, practice non-offensive behavior to the best of our ability, in the mood of wanting to preserve the treasure of devotional credits that we have gained through proper practice of devotional service. Just a cost benefit analysis. You understand that it's not worth it. My devotion is very valuable. I don't want to just throw it away by committing these kind of offenses, by being disrespectful, by acting in an arrogant way. So therefore, in that mood when we approach, so we may act humbly, but humility as a virtue we will develop once we reach Nishta, or once the influence of Rajoguna is gone. We may act in a non-arrogant way, but non-arrogance as a virtue we will develop once the Rajoguna and Tamoguna is gone by proper practice of bhakti. So in this way, this should be the approach of devotees. So this is a brief recap of this theme of Nishta. So now we will move on to the next theme, which is Ruchi. Adau Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta. 5 stages we have covered. Now we are going into the 6th stage. We are left with Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. 4 stages are left. So we will start today with Ruchi, and hopefully we'll complete this chapter today, and tomorrow we can do Asakti and maybe a little bit of Bhava we can touch tomorrow. So what is this Ruchi? So Ruchi, many times when we talk about progress in bhakti, we generally talk about this stage, consciously or unconsciously. So this is a common discussion between devotees. So devotees say, Prabhuji, I am not progressing in bhakti. I have been practicing devotional service for the last 10 years, 15 years. I am not progressing in bhakti. So someone may say, oh, why do you think so? Oh, no taste for hearing, no taste for chanting. So immediately they talk about the stage of taste. But generally, if you see, taste is the 6th stage of devotional service. There is Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, and after that only Ruchi comes. So one should not think, and because the Anartha Nivritti stage is very long, people generally, when they have a conception of progress means taste, then we are in for disappointment. So therefore, we are certainly progressing, even though we may not develop that taste. But we should understand that gradually, when the unfavorable desires are going away from our heart, and we are steadily practicing bhakti, that indicates that we are progressing. And taste is not very far away. I'll give a small example to explain this. If someone who is working in a particular company, a householder, let's say he has purchased the house. So maybe 70 lakhs, 80 lakhs, 1 crore, whatever it may be. And he is earning and he is working day and night very hard, working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And at the end of the month, in his hand, he gets just some 10,000, 15,000 rupees. And after a few months, he's thinking, why am I working like a donkey when only 10,000, 15,000 rupees are coming in my hand? So, what he does not realize is that 50,000 rupees of his earnings are going to pay off the EMI for the house loan. So, the monthly installment that he has to pay, so about 50,000 rupees is going towards that. So, therefore, he is thinking, oh, I am getting only 10,000, 15,000 in my hand. But what about the 50,000 EMI that is going towards paying off that EMI for the house loan? So after 5 years, 6 years, or maybe 10 years, whatever, that EMI will go away and he will suddenly start getting 1.5 lakhs or whatever it may be in his hand. By that time he must have been promoted also. So therefore, we should understand that in the initial stages of our devotional service, the taste for the practice goes in fighting of the opposing force of sense gratification, our conditioning. So a good number of years, depending on how seriously we are conditioned and how sincerely we are practicing, a good number of years will go on where the spiritual taste that we are getting by practicing bhakti will go off in fighting off the unwanted anarthas. And then when we reach the stage of Nishtha, Nishtha is the stage of neutrality, where we have neutralized all the anarthas, and now we can start thinking about, now we will start getting the full salary in our hand. Then gradually we start progressing in the positive way. How I can invest it in a positive way to enhance my relationship with Krishna. So that starts with ruchi, where we are developing positive taste. So otherwise, how come if we are not getting any taste, how come we are for so many years we have been practicing the path? How come we have taken up this strenuous activity of continuously fighting off our anarthas? So where are we getting the strength for all that? It is coming from our practice of devotional service only. It may not manifest in the form of taste, but it is manifesting in the form of strength to fight off our anarthas, strength to fight off our uncontrolled senses, strength to fight off our uncontrolled mind. Where is that strength coming from? That strength is coming from our practice of bhakti. That taste only is giving us the strength. So therefore, we should not think, oh, where is the taste? Where is the taste? I'll tell you a very interesting story about this. There was a big saint, one of the big saints in Vrindavan, and he had a disciple whom he had initiated and he had sent to another place for serving. There was a temple there and he had sent this disciple to serve the deities there. And this disciple was serving for many years. And at some point he was not very satisfied with his spiritual progress and he was feeling very despondent. And he wanted to meet his guru. But at the same time, he cannot leave his service and go to Vrindavan. And those were the days where there were no telephones or internet. So all he could do was just wait for his guru to arrive and maybe pray that his guru arrives and solves his dilemma or his doubt. So one day, after many years, his guru actually arrived to meet his disciple there. So the disciple was very ecstatic and the guru was also very happy to meet his disciple. So the disciple, after serving the deities, spent a good amount of time serving his guru very nicely, very affectionately. And one day, after massaging his feet, the disciple presented his problem. He said, "My dear Gurudev, I have this, I have something which has been troubling me for a long time. Can I share it with you?" Guru said, "Yes, please share." And he said, "Actually, I have been practicing for a long time, but I don't think I am progressing." So he said, then the Guru said, "Why do you think you are not progressing?" He said, "I am not getting any taste for the holy name." The Guru heard this and he thought for a few minutes. He didn't answer. And the disciple was scared. Did I offend my Guru? What is this? So he was so scared. And then after some time, the Guru said, "Okay, you can give up the process." And the disciple was shocked. He said, "What?" And the Guru said, "Yeah, see, look, you have been trying for so many years. It is not working for you. Give up the process. Why do you want to keep practicing a process which is not working for you?" Then the disciple was shattered. He started crying profusely. He fell at the feet of his Guru and begged, "My dear Gurudev, you please take my life away, but please don't take my sadhana away. That is my only life and soul." So the Guru started laughing because the Guru understood that the disciple was making progress. He had significantly conquered his senses and mind. He was steadily practicing his deity worship and his sadhana. And the Guru had observed it over many days. But the disciple had thought success means I have to get taste, ruchi. But the Guru saw that the disciple is making progress. So he said, "Why are you, look, why are you crying? Why are you so despondent? Why are you willing to share your life? You're willing to give up your life but not your sadhana. Isn't that indicative that you have developed great attachment for the process, that you are getting benefit from the process?" He said, "Don't be a madman. You are progressing and I am able to see it. Taste is just knocking the doors. Just wait." So, therefore, the point is that we have to understand that we should not conclude that the symptom of my progress is that I developed great taste. Of course, it is a very reliable symptom, but it comes later. But at the stage of anartha nivritti, the strength that we are getting to actually fight off our anarthas is actually that salary. As we saw, that salary only. It is going to pay off the EMI. And once it is paid off, once the anarthas are gone, then all that salary is ours. We can use it to build up our taste. Then we enter into the realm of ruchi and asakti and then bhava and prema. So, till anartha nivritti is neutralizing and the neutral stage is nishta, and from ruchi it is positively building up. So, anartha nivritti, then there is neutral stage, then there is artha pravritti. So, artha pravritti means developing positive attachment towards the process and Krishna that starts from ruchi and attains culmination at the stage of prema. So, in that we are on the path of artha pravritti. The first stage is called as ruchi. So, that is the stage we will try to understand today. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti writes here, these subsequent chapters are written in a very poetic way so that we can understand. When the golden coin of bhakti, shining effulgently by the fire of steady practice, that is nishtha, and propelled by its own energy, becomes fixed in the devotee's heart, ruchi or taste for devotional activities appears. So when gradually uh, the process of bhakti reaches the stage of nishta, and when the devotee steadily practices nishta, then over a period of time he starts getting taste in the process. So ruchi and asakti are both stages of attachment. But what differentiates ruchi and asakti is the object of attachment. Till till the stage of anartha nivritti is characterized by unsteady practice. Nishta, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema are characterized by steady practice. Just that the stimulus for that steady practice changes. The stimulus for the steady practice at the stage of nishta is destruction of rajogun and tamogun and the prominence of sattvagun. The nature of sattvagun is steadiness, day in and day out. Like, some of you might have seen the um, the advertisement for Duracell battery. You have that Duracell bunny, and it is like playing the drums, like this. And day in and day out, it is playing the drum. The Duracell dummy indicates nishta, steady practice, day in, day out, day in and day out. And what is the impetus? Predominance of mode of goodness and destruction of rajogun and tamogun. That is the. And then when one reaches ruchi, the stimulus for steady practice is great taste that he is feeling from the process, hearing and chanting. When a person develops a taste for the activities of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, which is vastly greater than attraction to anything else, this is called ruchi. So at the stage of ruchi, the kind of attraction that we will have for the process, especially hearing and chanting, will be greater than any other mundane attraction that we may have. And at the stage of asakti, this attraction to the process matures into attraction for Krishna. So we will discuss in detail when we reach the stage of asakti. But ruchi is characterized by taste for the process. At the stage of nishta, there is no very significant taste for the process. He is doing it in a duty bound fashion. It is my duty, I am supposed to do it. So that duty bound performance, kartavya buddhi. So that kartavya buddhi is the prime impetus at the stage of nishta, whereas attraction for the process is the prime impetus at the stage of ruchi, and attraction for Krishna is the prime impetus at the stage of asakti. Even though it's not that at the stage of nishta there is no attraction for Krishna or no attraction for the process. These two may be there in small amounts, but the prime stimulus comes from kartavya buddhi. It is my duty and I have to do it. And the duty bound nature is characteristic of mode of goodness. But that matures into ruchi. When it matures into ruchi, the prime stimulus is, oh, it's so wonderful. The person will start losing sleep. At 2 o'clock at night, he will check his clock and see, is it time for Mangalarti? I can dance with the devotees, I can chant with the devotees. It's so ecstatic. And when he sees that it is just 2 o'clock, he feels disappointed. Oh, I have to wait for 3 more hours or 2.5 more hours to dance and chant in Mangalarti, like that. Even though as struggling Vaidhi sadhakas, at the stage of anartha nivritti, when we look at our clock and it says 2 a.m., literally in sleep we would smile and say, Jai ho, I can sleep for at least 2 more hours, and we will, take the blanket cover till our head and blissfully sleep for the next 2 hours. While the same 2 a.m., when a person at the stage of ruchi, he feels despondent. Oh, I have to wait for 2 hours more to get the association of devotees. So because he has developed a positive taste in the process, that positive taste, the stage of positive taste in the process of Krishna consciousness is called as Ruchi. Unlike the previous stages, at the stage of Ruchi, constant performance of hearing and chanting does not result in even the least fatigue. So, just like a person who is very much attached to money, he will never become fatigued by counting that money. The greater the number of bundles, the more joyful he would become actually, because of his attachment to money. Similarly, at the stage of Ruchi, any duration of time that he spends performing the limbs of devotional service, it does not produce even the least amount of fatigue in him. Ruchi quickly produces a great attachment to the activities of bhakti. Now, we discussed in the beginning of this discussion, when we started Ruchi, that devotees generally think that I am not progressing because I don't have taste. But as we saw here, Ruchi follows Nishta and not the other way round. But generally, disappointment in devotional service many times after many years actually is a result of this improper understanding. Generally, devotees feel that Nishta should follow Ruchi. That is our inbuilt understanding. So we think that, Prabhu, now I am not steadily practicing, but the day I will get taste for chanting, you will see no one can stop me from chanting. I will chant and chant and chant and chant. I will not sleep also. But I am just waiting for that taste. This is natural mentality that we have, that we wait for Ruchi in order to practice steady devotional service. But actually, Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction says, no, you have got the order wrong. Nishta comes before Ruchi. Our steady practice comes before taste. So he gives this beautiful analogy. Syat Krishna nama charitadi sitapya vidya pittopataptarasanasya narochikanu किन्त्वादरात् अनुदिनं खलु सैव जुष्ट स्वाद्विक्रमात् भवति तद्गदमूलहन्त्री. He says, Krishna Nama Charita Adi. Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. Sita Syat. They are very sweet. Sita means very sweet, like sugar. They are definitely very sweet. But despite being sweet, Sita Syat Api, despite being sweet, Pittopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu. For a person who is suffering from jaundice. So jaundice is a disease which is caused due to bile disorder, Pitta disorder. When the Pitta increases beyond the threshold, then it leads to jaundice. And that Pitta actually forms a layer on the tongue of the diseased person. It is called as Pitta Upatapta Rasana. Rasana means tongue. The tongue which is coated with a layer of Pitta. Pitta Upatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu. And when that tongue is coated with that layer of bile, when he puts something sweet on his tongue, it tastes extremely bitter. So a jaundiced person cannot relish anything that is sweet. Pittopatapta rasanasya narochikanu. So what is this pitta which is on the tongue, eyes, ears of the practicing devotee? He says avidya. Avidya means material conditioning. When the layer of conditioning is there, and on that layer of conditioning, when the pure name, form, qualities or pastimes of the Supreme Lord sit, it tastes very bitter. But the project is to remove that layer of pitta. In this case, avidya. How do we do that? He says, Kintu adarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta. Adarad means with great respect. Great respect means without committing offenses. As we saw, lack of respect is the symptom of low immunity towards committing offenses. We had a discussion on this topic. So, adarad with great respect while carefully avoiding the offenses, anudinam with regularity and regulation, regulated and regular practice of devotional service, swadvi kramad bhavati. Just like for the jaundiced person, according to Ayurveda, even though he cannot, anything sweet tastes bitter, but the medicine that is prescribed according to Ayurveda for him is either sugarcane juice or sugar candy, kadi shakkar. So, when he starts drinking that sugarcane juice, it tastes extremely bitter. But then that is the medicine. So, as a medicine, he has to take sugarcane juice. Then slowly, how does one know that he is progressing in the path of bhakti or not? Or he is progressing towards healthy life or not? The jaundiced person will start feeling that day by day that sugarcane juice is tasting less and less bitter. And one day it is not tasting bitter at all. That is the stage of nishta. And from the next day onwards or subsequently, it starts tasting little bit sweet. And at some stage it's so nectarian sweet. And then he tells the doctor, can I have one more glass please? And the doctor says, get out of here. You are healthy now. You have no business staying in this hospital. You pay it from your pocket and you drink. So at that point of time, it's a luxury for him. The sugarcane juice is a luxury. It sends gratification for him. So, avidya pittopatapta rasanasya narochikanu. So because our tongue is conditioned, our ears are conditioned, our eyes are conditioned, it cannot appreciate the form of the Lord. It cannot appreciate the sound of the Mahamantra. It cannot appreciate chanting the holy names with the tongue. That is why great acharyas instruct their mind, instruct their senses. As in Mukunda Mala Stotra, King Kulashekar offers this prayer. Jihve kirtaya keshavam muraripum cheto bhaja shridaram panidvandva samarchaya chutakata shrotadvayam tam shrunu. Like that he says. Jihve kirtaya keshavam. O tongue, chant the holy names of Lord Keshava. Jihve kirtaya keshavam muraripum. Who is the killer of Mura demon. Cheto bhaja shridaram. Oh consciousness, oh head, worship the Supreme Lord, Sridhara. Panidvandva samarchaya. Oh, two hands, you engage in worshipping the deity forms of the Lord. Achyuta kata shrotadvayam tam shrunu. And oh, two ears, engage in hearing the katha, the glorious katha glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, he says, so therefore, when one steadily practices the limbs of devotional service, then that steady practice actually leads to development of taste. So that's what here he says. Kintu adarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta swadvi kramad bhavati. So therefore, to give taste is Krishna's duty, and to practice steadily and without offenses is our duty. Generally, we postpone our duty and expect Krishna to perform his duty before time. And with such false expectations, all that we have to encounter is disappointment. So therefore, if we do our duty as instructed by Srila Rupa Goswami here, then Krishna is more than eager to do his duty, but he will never do it prematurely. So Krishna is like a loving father who is standing at the end of the 100-meter ribbon, cheering for us. End the race, come on, end the race, complete the race, You just complete the race, that is sufficient. You don't even have to come first. Complete the race. He's cheering from the other side of the ribbon. But we are expecting him to cross the ribbon and come and meet us at the 10-meter or the 5-meter point. That he will not do. He says, at least walk towards the ribbon, if not run. Walk towards the ribbon and meet me at the ribbon. I am waiting with the big, huge trophy for you. The trophy of Ruchi is waiting for you. But I cannot cross the ribbon and give you. You at least crawl towards the ribbon and accept the trophy from me. I am just waiting for you. I am more eager than you to give you this trophy of Ruchi. But please earn it. You do your duty, at least improperly. At least try to do your duty. Kintu adarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta swadvi kramad bhavati. So therefore, disappointment is mainly because in sadhaka's lives are mainly because of expecting ruchi before nishta and proper bhajana kriya. But actually ruchi follows proper bhajana kriya and nishta. And that proper bhajana kriya is adarad anudinam kalusaiva jushta. With regularity, respect and free of offenses, when one practices devotional service, gradually taste manifests. Krishna injects the juice into those very same activities which we were performing at the stage of anartha nivritti without any taste. Grudgingly we were dragging ourselves, and at the stage of nishta we were doing it with kartavya buddhi, with steadiness, in a duty bound way without much taste. But Krishna seeing that, oh, despite not having taste, he is very steadily doing, let me inject some taste into those very same activities. Then suddenly ecstasy manifests and the person feels great joy in practicing those very same activities. So that is the stage of ruchi. So Srila Vishnacharya Thakur writes, this is similar to a Brahmana boy who, after diligently studying the scriptures daily and in time grasping the meaning, finds no difficulties at all in applying himself to study, and moreover develops a pleasure in the task. So with great diligence, when one applies himself to practicing even a mundane subject matter, he becomes an expert, and the moment he becomes an expert, he starts enjoying it. The same is true here also. Because of a defect in the liver, the ability to taste becomes affected and sugar becomes distasteful. Same thing we discussed. Pittopatapta rasanasya na rochikanu. Sugar, however, is also the medicine to cure the defect. Kintu adarad anudinam kalu sa eva jushta. But he has to engage in the very same activities. Just like sugarcane juice is the cure for jaundice even though it is bitter. Similarly, the holy name, the holy katha, deity worship are the very same antidote for the lack of taste. It may taste bitter, but if we respectfully and regularly practice it, then we will develop taste. Understanding this, an afflicted person will take sugar daily, even though it may be distasteful, and eventually he will develop a real taste for it as it cures his sickness. In this way, the jiva's heart, which is contaminated by ignorance, avidya, the pitta is avidya, and the other kleshas, becomes cured by the medicine of hearing, chanting and other devotional processes, which in the beginning may not be so tasteful and eventually develops a taste for those activities. So this is the second theme that we discuss, that Nishta precedes Ruchi and not the other way around. And we should not expect it also. This wrong expectation will lead to severe disappointment. Like that. The next theme that we will discuss is, just like in Nishta we had two types, in Ruchi also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says there are two types. One is the inferior type, another is the superior type. He says Ruchi is of two types, that which depends on excellence of elements and that which does not. So he is going to explain what it means. Excellence of elements refers to an excellence relating to such things as Lord's name, qualities, form, etc. Which means if a bhajan is sung in wonderful melody, then he can relish that bhajan or kirtan and he can sit for hours together and relish. But if someone who has no sense of either tone or pitch or beats, sings in his own way, then he may not relish the holy name. So this is the inferior type. For instance, he gives an example. A person may only experience pleasure from kirtan if it is pleasing to the ear and artistically sung. Or he may only relish topics of the Lord if they are delivered skillfully with literary ornaments and qualities. Or he may enjoy deity worship if all the implements, place and materials are of high standard. So he has taste, but the taste depends on the material embellishments. He will enjoy kirtan if it is artistically sung with some alap and all those things, or at least with proper tune and melody. And he may relish lectures if they are very eloquently spoken, very artistically presented. Similarly, deity worship also. This is just like a person with a weak appetite who, when notified of a meal, will ask what types of preparations there are and what quality. So you will say, oh, come, it's time for lunch. So you will say, what is the menu? Which means insufficient appetite. And then you tell the menu and he will ask, oh, did you cook it in oil or ghee? Is it rightly seasoned? Are you sure you have not overcooked it or undercooked it? Which means insufficient appetite. If there is sufficient appetite, then the person, when he sees that the chula is on and some fragrance is coming, he will come and sit with his plate. I am ready and he will start playing some music on the plate to indicate that I am sitting here, please serve me. So therefore, the second type of ruchi, which is dependent on the taste, on material embellishments for relishing, is not real ruchi. It indicates the presence of impurities in the heart. But still it is better than not having any taste. The first type of ruchi is in which a slight trace of impurity remains. So this is the trace of impurity. Therefore, if a person depends on the excellency of the material elements of kirtan to experience a spiritual taste, one should understand that this is evidence of impurity in his heart. But the second type of ruchi is not dependent on material embellishments. A person with this second type of ruchi will experience great pleasure whenever, wherever there is a performance of kirtan and whoever may be performing that kirtan. He does not depend on the excellence of elements because he had actual depth in his taste. One should understand that he has no trace of impurity in his heart. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was on his departure bed, he was just ready to depart, And at that time, he wanted to hear one of his favorite bhajans, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So, in the Gaudiya Mutt, they brought one of the best, uh, one of the brahmacharis who had a Gandharva like voice. So he came with his harmonium and he started singing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur stopped him and he said, I would like to hear this bhajan sung by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj. Actually, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj had no sense of music or very little sense of music. But Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur appreciated him for his depth of devotion. So he called him, and this brahmachari was a new brahmachari. Eventually, he went on to become a very stalwart devotee. He took sannyas and he was a very wonderful devotee. But at that point, he was a very new brahmachari, and Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur appreciated him for his depth of devotion. So he called him and he made him sing that bhajan, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. Even though, so therefore, this indicated the true nature of ruchi is that it does not depend on material embellishments, but it depends on one's devotional development. So now we will see some what is the mental state of a person who has reached the stage of ruchi. So such a person has very deep regret over his past consciousness. In previous before coming to Krishna consciousness, he wasted his life. So he regrets for wasting his life. Of course, we should not think that it is he has a morbid obsession for lamenting all the time. He is not a depressed person, but it is a genuine regret. And it's not that all the time he is only lamenting and regretting, but it is a feeling that he has. I could have utilized that time better. Not that he is wasting his time right now. Not that he wastes all his time regretting and wastes his current time also, not like that. So he says, in a very poetic way, it is mentioned. Oh friend, giving up the nectar of Krishna's names, why are you engaging yourself in pursuits for security and enjoyment which is so hard to attain? Oh friend, he is addressing himself. What can I say? I am unfortunate, for I am the lowest criminal. Though I have received the mercy of the spiritual master, I have not understood its proper value. So, just like Narottam Das Thakur sings, Manushya Janama Paya Radha Krishna Nabajiya Janiya Shuniya Vishakainu. So, I know it is poison, I have heard it's poison, but I am willingly drinking that poison. Instead, I have been wandering everywhere, and in that way I have wasted my life. Like that, he has a very deep regret. Keeping a precious jewel tied in the hem of my cloth, I have been searching out a cracked cowrie, a spot of false happiness between the banks of the river of material engagements. He says, how I have spent my life? I had the most precious diamond tied to my uttariya. And I lost one cracked cowrie. Cracked cowrie means in today's day and age, it is like 1 rupee coin. About 2 decades back, we had even 5 paisa and 10 paisa coins. Maybe not 2 decades, maybe about 3.5 decades back. Even 5 paisa, 10 paisa had some value. So now you can say 1 rupee. 1 rupee hardly has any value in today's day and age. Many places they don't accept 1 rupee also. So it starts with 5 rupees or 10 rupees only. So you can say that you know, I had this rarest of rare Kohinoor diamond tied to my Uttariya, and I spent my whole life searching for that 1 rupee coin which I had lost between the river. I started swimming the river back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, going to the depth of that river searching for that 1 rupee coin. I have not received it yet. तस्यैव हेतोः प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद् भ्रमताम् उपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवदन्यतः सुखं कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररंहसा. Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva, an intelligent person does not spend his life like this. Don't search for that 1 rupee coin you have lost in this ocean of samsara. You will never get it because it does not exist. ये ही संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःख योने एवते. You will get only dukkha. And this person at the stage of Ruchi says, this is how I have wasted my life. I had the diamond tied to the hem of my cloth, but I was searching for this 1 rupee coin in this ocean of samsara, and still I have not received it. Not practicing any anga of bhakti, I have simply manifested lack of energy. So deceitful I am. Such is my case of taste that I lick up acrid tasting profane gossip like nectar. Till now, when it was gossip, I used to become so eager to lap it up and remain apathetic to hear the names, qualities and pastimes of the Lord. But when it comes to hearing the name, form, qualities and pastimes of the Lord, I was very apathetic, no interest. How unfortunate I am. When I start to hear about the Lord, I comfortably fall asleep. And at any opportunity for vulgar discussion, I prick up my ears and become wide awake. So in this way, he is talking about his past life and he is regretting. In this way, I have contaminated the assembly of devotees and everything else. In this way, I am like a black spot in the community of devotees. Old and bent as I am, what sinful act have I not performed simply for the satisfaction of my insatiable belly? Just for filling the stomach, what all sinful activities I have not performed? What a waste. Same thing in that bhajan. That bhajan starts, Narottam Das Thakur starts that bhajan by telling, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gavainu. O Lord, I have uselessly wasted my life searching for this kind of happiness. And this is what Vidura also says. Sukaya karmani karoti loko natai sukam vanya duparamam va vindeta bhuyas tatayeva dukkam yadatra yuktam bhagavan vadennaha. My dear Maitreya, you are such a qualified person. You will know the answer for this question. This question has been troubling me for a long time. Please answer this question. People of this world engage in activities with great taste for two reasons. For getting some sukha and for destroying dukkha. Natai sukam vanya duparamam va. But even though they have been endeavoring for a long time, they never get that happiness and distress does not leave them. Vindeta bhuyastata eva dukkam. But still, there is some hope that is keeping them to again and again engage in searching for that happiness, which has eluded them for millions of lifetimes. Why do they do it? Please explain this to me. And here, the person who has reached the stage of Ruchi, he is telling, this is exactly how I have spent my life. I do not know what type of hell I will have to suffer for all my activities. In this way, the devotee will despair over his previous state of consciousness with a taste of disgust. How I have wasted my life like that. So further, tomorrow we have already gone well past the time. So tomorrow we will discuss about the activities of a person at the stage of Ruchi, and I will quickly recap what we have seen till now in the stage of Ruchi. Then we will, the last one or two topics left in Ruchi we will cover, and then we will move to Asakti tomorrow. So thank you very much for your patient listening. It was a great pleasure sharing this subject matter with you. शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. शिला विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय. श्री माधुर्य कादम्बिनी की जय. हरे कृष्णा. Thank you very much.